length, width, and height when speaking in terms of a rectangular prism. Okay. Now, for each of these rectangles, and I think Liam said, I think he used the word face. Did you use the word face? Yeah. How many faces, if this here, this whole side right here is a face, how many total faces would I have on this figure? 6. There are 6 faces. Okay. I have a front. I would also have a back that measures the same as the front. I would have a top, which would measure the same as the bottom. And I would have one of the sides over here that would measure the same as the other side. Now, a rectangular prism is a three-dimensional figure made entirely up of, what are these faces? What shape are these faces? They're all rectangles. So what we're going to do to find surface area is we're going to find out not only how much space does this rectangle take up, but how much does this one combined with this one, this one, this one, and this one. And we're going to take them all, we're going to add them all together. So we're going to find out the area of all of these rectangles, add them all together to find out our surface area. The surface, like the outside. Okay? We're going to find these and add them all together. May seem difficult at first, but it's really not that bad. I'm going to hand you the sheet that goes with this. We'll do as many of these together in class as we need to. I'm going to hold off on the calculators today because this really is something that shouldn't be that bad as far as the computation is concerned. Okay? So we're going to find the area of 6 rectangles, but essentially it'll be only 3. Because those 3, they're going to have corresponding rectangles that are going to measure the same. Let's take a look at number 1 on your worksheet. Surface area of the rectangular prisms. And there's a real simple way of doing this. We have these 3 dimensions, L, W, and H. 3 measurements. Now, on that rectangular prism for number 1, do you see 3 measurements? Okay, very good. Those 3 measurements are the measurements we're going to use to find out the surface area. Now, understand this. In the big picture, it does not matter to us that much what you want to call the length, which one you want to call the width, which one you want to call the height. I just need to assign those 3 measurements to each of these labels, length, width, or height. All right? So as we look at it, and you can, but it's always going to change, right? Depending on how you see the rectangular prism. If I were picking right now, and I tried to really find out what the length is, which of those would be the length? Carlos. Not the 5. Should be the length. Tequila. If I really wanted to get technical, it would be the 8. Now, if 8 was the length, what was the width? 5. And if I have a length of 8 and a width of 5, what has to be the height? 2. Okay? Now, understand this. Understand this. It doesn't really matter. If I want to have it 5, 2, 8, that's fine. As long as all 3 of the measurements are represented, that's okay. If you want to just put them in whatever place you want without trying to figure it out, it's fine. Because the formula we use is going to take care of itself. All right? Now, in your notes, not on your sheet, let's get this formula down, and then we'll plug in these values. Okay? So, length times width times 2 plus length times height times 2 plus width times height times 2. Take a second and get these formulas. How do you suppose? Alexis? So if we use this blue sheet, we'll take a look at number 1. We said the length was 8 and the width was 5. What part of this rectangular prism would I be finding if I multiplied that length of 8 and that width of 5? Yeah.
You'll be finding all of the length.
Specifically, I'd be finding the what?
8
Bottom. Do you see that, how that's the bottom rectangle? But the bottom is going to be the same as the top. So we'll take that measurement, this length times the width, and we'll just go ahead and multiply it by 2 right away. Because that's going to cover not only the bottom, that's also going to cover the top. So let's plug that in. The length is 8 times the width is 5 times 2. 8 times 5 is 40. 40 times 2, 80. Okay. Now here, once I've done this, 6th grade, once I have established L, W, and H, all I have to do is plug them in and do the work. If I say L is 8 times H, which is 2, times another 2. 8 times 2, 16. 16 times 2, 32. And then W is 5. H is 2 times 2. 5 times 2 times 2. So now what we'll do, since we are adding all of these, 80 plus 32 plus 20, 0 plus 2 plus 0 is 2. 8 plus 3 is 11, plus 2 is 13. How are we going to label this if this is surface area? Moriah, centimeters squared. So 132 centimeters squared covers the area for that entire rectangular prism. All right? So if you get that formula in black down and assign a length, a width, and a height for your particular rectangular prism, it's just a matter of filling it in and doing the work. Yes, ma'am? So what do you want to call the length? Okay, we'll call the length 5. What do you want to call the width? How about let's call the width 2? And we'll call this 8. I don't know, let's find out. Let's find out. Let's plug it in. We'll use the red, okay? So length times the width times 2. 5 times 2 is 10, times 2 is 20. Let's plug in L, which is 5, times the height, which is 8, times 2. 5 times 8, 40, times 2 is 80. And then the width, which is 2, and the height, which is 8, times 2, 16 times 2. So when I add them up, 2 and 13. Did I get the same thing? Yes. That's what I'm telling you. Whatever you decide to assign as L, W, or H, it's not going to matter as long as you use all 3 measurements. Don't repeat them. You obviously can't go, well, I'm going to have a length of 8, width of 8, height of 8. No. It's not 8, 8, 8, is it? Okay, so as long as you assign one to each place, it will work out. Just like I showed you. If I have this as a rectangular prism, right, like the one you've got at number 1, kind of curved going down, and I've got a length Watch, please. A length and a width, just like you have in that picture, and a height this way, right? Are they the same if I turn it over? Are the length, width, and height the same if I turn this over? Now I've got this as a length, this as a width, and this as a height. Is it a different shape? Is it a different shape? Did it magically morph into some other shape? No, it just got tilted a little bit. So it's all a matter of, what do we call that? Perspective. If you're looking at it this way, you've got a length, width, height. If I'm looking at it this way, I've got a length, width, height. It didn't change shape. It didn't transform into a robot. It's the same thing, okay? It's just a matter of perspective. That's why, Alexis, it doesn't matter what you choose for each of those. Does that make sense? Good. Now do number 2. Right? Casimir, what did you pick for a length? 9 for length. Okay, 9 inches. And then what else? What was your width? 6? And your height would have been 3. Correct? So let's plug them in based on what you say. Now, do these all have to match up with what you had? No. As long as you have a 9 somewhere, a 6 somewhere, and a 3 somewhere, you'll be fine. So here we go. Length, 9 times the width of 6 times 2. 9 times 6 is 54. 54 times 2? 108. Very good. Length is 9. Height is 3 times 2. So 9 times 3 is 27 times 2 is 54. And then the width of 6 times the height of 3 times 2. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 times 2?
36.
All right, let's add them up. 8 and 4 is 12, plus 6 is 18. 1, 5 is 6, plus 3 is 9. 198, and the label? Inches squared. How many of you got it? Very, very, very good. If you missed, why did you miss? If you missed, why did you miss? Multiplied wrong? Yeah, I mean, we can set them up, but you got to knock them down. Simply putting the things in the right place isn't going to guarantee that you get it correct if we miss the small details. Did you have it set up the right way? What did you have for this first one? Did you have 108? Did you have 54? Did you have 36? You added them all and got 198. Awesome. Good stuff. Okay. You try number 3? Go for it. How many of you found it helpful to put the L, W, and H right out there so you can see it? Good. And H. L was what? 7? Okay, and then what was W? 4. So then height had to be 10. Good. And I think, Larissa, from that perspective, those would be accurate measurements. Okay? It's a little bit taller, right? And 10 is the height, which makes it the biggest measurement there. But it doesn't have to be this, remember. So let's plug the stuff in. And let's say length is 7 times the width of 4, then times the 2. 7 times 8 is what? 56. Length of 7 times the height of 10 times 2. 70 times 2, 140. And then W times H times 2, 40 times 2 is 80. Add them up. 6, 9 plus 7, 17, and 276. 276 what? Check your measurements. 56, 140, and 80. Make sure you got them all right. Make sure you added them correctly. Usually you can find, once you hear that, oh, usually means we found it. Okay, let's do number 4. We're on a roll. So what's the length? You use 14. And then what's the width? 8. And then the height? 4. Okay, so length times width times 2 plus length times height times 2, and then width times height times 2. All right. So 14 times 8 times 2 gives us what? 224? 14 times 4 times 2. 14 times 4 is 56. 56 times 2. 112? Okay. Sorry, just try to do it in my head. And then 8 times 4 times 2 is 64, correct? Now from here. 4, 2, 4 is 10. 3, 4, and 6 is another 10. 3, 4 is 400 millimeters squared. Yes. Pardon me? Yep. Sure does. Stands for squared. Now, number 5. Take a look at number 5. What is it that you notice about number 5? Okay. Yes. Times what? Oh, S. Got it. What kind of a rectangular prism specifically would we call something like this? A what? Cube. A cube where all of the sides are made up of what shape? Are they rectangles? Squares. Therefore, there could be a shortcut to this. Well, close. If I know that all of these measure out to be 7.5, the top is going to be the same as the bottom, which is going to be the same as the front, which is going to be the same as the back, which is going to be the same as both sides. Each face is going to measure the same. So I could do what? Take the 7.5, multiply it to another 7.5, and then multiply it by what? How many total faces are on this cube? How many total faces are on the cube? 6. Do it. Here we go. Let's go ahead and do it. 7.5 times 7.5. What we get here, we'll then take times 6. So 25, 37, drop to 0. 35, 52, 5, 12, 6, 5, with how many decimals? 56.25 times 6. 30, 15, 37, 33, with how many decimals here? How many places after the decimal there? 2, which makes this 337.5. What's the label? Yards squared. Now that was just showing you a shortcut. If you wanted to go ahead and plug those in and use the L times H times 2 plus the L times W times 2, all that, you still would have gotten 337.5. I just wanted to show you a shortcut just because that rectangular prism in this case was a Rubik's Cube, right, because they were all the same. All right, now, let's see. Let's give you worksheet 11-5. Let's do number 6. $11, $12, $14, and $15. So 5 of them for tomorrow. The nice thing is once you get to 12, 11, 12, 14, and 15, they tell you LWH. You can just use what they have and go with it. Okay? So make sure to label correctly as well, but there's 5 problems for tomorrow.